Zo make myself a cup of coffee.
Yeah, I want to know you were. I said he's in the kitchen.
I'll mute it.
Morris, where's Susan?
I'm here.
She's sitting on the
Hi there.
sofa.
Hi there.
You like your sofa?
Yeah.
It's comfortable.
She's in the back. The camera doesn't reach.
So what we're gonna do now is we're gonna mute everyone so we can get started. And then at the end, when we have questions, we'll allow.
You want me to do it? Spotlight. I will.
Okay.
Hi.
Hello, hello. Good. You're muted. Beautiful. So, hello. Good evening to everyone. Nice to see many of you back after we took a long hiatus before Pesach and then during Pesach. And now we're ready to begin our journey. I was looking the other day, and over the last few months, we had visited 18 different cities and countries, each one with its own unique history and present Jewish life that we were so fortunate to be able to learn about and connect with. And we're very excited about tonight. We have with us, and this is for the first time, we have with us a couple. The rabbi is here. His wife will join very soon. We have Rabbi Mendy Chitrik with his wife Chaya, who have been serving as leaders in the Jewish community of Turkey based in Istanbul, but actually serving the entire country of Turkey, and actually even more. And I learned about it now before Pesach. I'm sure we'll hear. As the founder and the president of the Alliance of Rabbis in Islamic States, helping to serve Jews whatever they need in, I believe, 14 countries in the Islamic world, where some have some kind of a Jewish presence with a rabbi or a synagogue, and some just have Jews without really a Jewish presence. So it's a great, great honor to have such a esteemed guest with us, and we look forward tonight to really getting a chance to get to know and the life, Jewish life in Turkey. And Turkey actually has, I think, the longest history of Judaism. According to many opinions, Abraham came from Turkey. Avram came from Turkey in that area. So you can't go further back. And definitely we look forward to hearing. And I want to really point out that we are doubly grateful, not only to be able to hear from both the rabbi and the rebbitzin, but we're doubly grateful that they are here with us on live, even though, I don't want to say this, but even though for them, if you're rubbing your eyes, imagine for them it's 2:30 a.m. now. And they were willing and agreed to come on live to be with us. So this is really something which I'm sure talks about how they serve their community. We're not even their community, and they're ready to share with us. This
How
is something
dedicated they are.
This is a real sign of dedication on a different level. So I said enough, and we're now going to get a chance to hear from Rabbi Mendy Chitrik. So welcome, Shalom Aleichem.
And his wife.
And
Hi.
your wife, I guess, will be here soon. And maybe you want to start telling us a little bit about yourself and how someone from Israel, you from Israel, your wife from Florida, married and end up in Turkey, and sort of what you found when you came there, and what it looks like today. Rabbi Mendy.
Hi, everybody. Good morning, good evening, whatever it is. I guess we agreed to come to speak to you in Montreal, but I guess our little kids did not. So right now one of them is crying. My wife went to take care of him, so until she rejoins us, I'm here with you. Rabbi Krasniansky said a little bit more than the share, but we are here in Istanbul for past 20 years, or close to 20 years, trying to help the local Jewish community. As the rabbi said, the Turkish Jewish community is one of the oldest Jewish communities in the world. Avram was actually born in the city of Ur-Kasdim, which is in southern Iraq, but he traveled all the way to where today modern-day Turkey is, the city of Haran, still called Haran to this day. And he lived here with his father, and here he heard the godly command of Lech lecha me'artzecha mimoladecha mibet avicha. Here God told him, you should leave your father's home, and you should go to the land which I will show you, which was, today we call it the land of Israel. Here in Turkey is a place where Yaakov married Rachel and Leah. Right outside the city of Haran, there is the famous well, which is called Jacob's Well. Till today, it's called Yakub Kuyusu, which means in Turkish, Jacob's Well. Here in Haran is where 11 of the 12 tribes of Israel were born. Besides Benjamin, who was born in the land of Israel, 11 of the 12 tribes were born here. So yes, I could say that in many ways, the birthplace of the Jewish people is here in Turkey. But more recently, the Turkish Jewish community is mostly a Sephardic Jewish community, a community which came here after the expulsion of Jews from Spain in 1492 and later 1497, and has been here ever since. Of course, there was a Jewish community even before the Sephardic Jews came here from Spain. There were Jews here, there were Ashkenazi Jews here after the expulsion of Jews from Hungary. There were Jews here even from the time of before the destruction of the first temple. Jews have always been in this area. Jews have always been in today's Turkey, and today we have about a community of about 12 to 15,000 Jews who still live here in Turkey. We came here about, as I said before, about 20 years ago to help the Jewish community, to strengthen it, to work with the youth, to add in Jewish education, to have Shabbat hospitality, have place for traveling Jews to come and stop by. So, still here.
Very nice.
That's beautiful. How was it when, and hello, welcome, the Rebbetzin, Chaya, welcome, and thank you so much. We thank your husband, especially for the first time we're doing actually a couple, the Rabbi and the Rebbetzin, and especially, she's here, she's going back to the baby.
You'll have a couple and your son.
Motherly duties will always take first thing. So what happened when you got married and you were proposed to go to Turkey, which is not, the average place where someone will go out to be a shliach, to go there and settle till Mashiach comes. What was your initial reaction when Turkey was brought, you and your wife, when Turkey was brought up as an idea?
We grew up, I mean, myself, I grew up in Tzfat in Israel. My wife grew up in Miami. And we always grew up with this, we had this education, and we had this motto in life that we grew up with. We were always taught ourselves in the light of what the Rebbe has wanted his followers to go out and be of help physically and spiritually to the Jewish people. And when we got married, we decided that we will join the Rebbe's army of shluchim, of messengers, emissaries, and we will, wherever there is a need, we'll be there to help out the Jewish community, to help out Jews. At that time, I was studying in Israel. We lived in Israel, and we got a call that there is a request from the Jewish community in Turkey to come and join them. We came. We thought it's an hour and a half flight from Israel. Not too bad. It was supposed to be just for 1 year. It was extended for a second year, and 20 years later, and 8 kids after, we're still here.
Baruch Hashem. Wow.
A blessing for the community, for sure. It's interesting. You said it's largely a Sephardic community. We're in Montreal. We have today, about half of Montreal are Sephardic Jews and half are Ashkenazi Jews. So here's a place where there's, we all, thank God, live together as one and appreciate the special things that come from the Sephardic world and from the Ashkenaz world. Are there Ashkenaz Jews in Turkey as well, or it's really basically a Sephardic community?
Well, we contribute 10 automatically.
The Ashkenazi synagogue in Istanbul was built. The current Ashkenazi synagogue was built 120 years ago. There have been Ashkenazi Jews here in Turkey since the year 1250, after the Ashkenazi Jews were expelled from Hungary. There is a presence of Ashkenazi Jews. I'm officially the rabbi of the Ashkenazi community. So yes, there are some Ashkenazi Jews, but not that many, no. Out of 12,000 or 15,000 Jews of Istanbul, there may be 250 or 300 Ashkenazi Jews. So yes, it is vastly a Sephardic Jewish community, but it's I assume the community in Montreal is mostly a Moroccan Jewish community.
A large one. But a mixture. We have Lebanese, we have Iraqis, even some Turkish Jews here. There are Algerians, there are Tunisians, but largely Moroccan.
Mostly Moroccan.
Right. So you mentioned there's some Turkish Jews. So Turkish Jews are a little bit different than most other or many other what people call Sephardic Jews. There are, every community is different. Every community is unique. Jews of Morocco and Tunisia, North African Jews have a different style, so to speak, and Turkish Jews have their very unique style. It comes from the fact that the Turkish Jews mostly originate from Spain properly. Many of them still speak or spoke Spanish or Ladino until the last generation. That is a very, very strong factor in what makes the Jewish community, the local Jewish community, the way it is. But at the same time, it's also because Turkey is a part of Europe. It's very much influenced by European ideals more than North African or other Middle Eastern communities. So it is not, it's sort of in between Ashkenazi and Mizrahi Jews. It's a different, it's a unique type of community. It's mostly a very non-practicing Orthodox community, we call it. While officially it is an Orthodox community, it's not a very religious community. It's somewhat of a traditional community, but not a very traditional as most people might think of Moroccan or Tunisian Jews. It's its own Turkish Jewish community, very different. We still have in Istanbul about 20 synagogues, pre-COVID, of course, about 20 synagogues, 16 or 17 of them open every Shabbos. In the summer, 20 are open because we also have some synagogues and islands right next to Istanbul. But the community today of 12,000 is just a fraction of what the community used to be. And
So
about
how
80
was
years ago in Istanbul, there were more than 120,000 Jews.
When you say years
And
ago, you're talking about before the wars, or even before then, or after?
actually, there were no the wars. I'm talking before the First World War. The Second World War has not reached. But before the creation of the modern Turkish Republic, there were more than 120,000 Jews living in Istanbul. And of course, at that time, the Ottoman Empire was quite large. It reached all the way to its height, reached Tunisia, Morocco, and all
Israel.
the way to the gates of Vienna. And at that time, there were hundreds of thousands of Jews under Turkish rule. Today, it is a much more of a modest community. It's also, unfortunately, an elderly community, losing a lot of the ratio between birth and death is not very promising.
So I think everyone who's sitting on here on Zoom and on Facebook is thinking, so what is Jewish life like on a daily basis? You say there are 20 synagogues, 16 are open all the time. Then you have some when tourists come. But what is daily life like? Is there Jewish schools? Do Jewish children go to Jewish schools? Do they integrate into society and are mixing within society? Do people walk outside where they can be recognized as Jews? Is
there a lot of anti-Semitism?
Like, what is life like on a real basis? Are there kosher stores and the buy meat and the other foods, or it's all?
Doing a lot of questions there. We got to do it one by one.
Okay, so
The general gist of what the Jewish life is like.
how is it, Chaya, bringing up a family in Turkey, and how is the education there? Let's start with that, the Jewish education.
So how's it raising a family? I'll tell you what I tell most of my friends here when they tell me how difficult it is. I said, I believe the primary place where your children are raised is in your home. So that doesn't matter where you are. It's up to me how my home will be in Istanbul. It's up to you how it's going to be in Montreal. It's up to them how it's going to be in New York or wherever it is. So in that, we're all the same. We can't, so to speak, blame the outsides over there. When you speak about schooling, that's where it's probably a little bit different over here. We have over here a local school for Jews, which we send our kids to from around nursery through 3rd grade. The school goes to 12th grade, but we only send till 3rd. And after 3rd grade, our kids are completely on online school where they learn virtually with hundreds of other shluchim children in a similar situation.
And what age do you send your boys away? What age do you send your girls away? You know, different shluchim in different places, you know, send their kids away at different times. Like,
I think one of the things that we are learning, you're probably way more advanced than we are in this, that there's no blanket rules when it comes to kids.
exactly.
Say what age, it depends on the kid when they're
Right,
ready.
I'm saying,
So the boys don't go till after bar mitzvah, usually like a year after the bar mitzvah. And our daughter, who turned 15 this year, this is her first, she just started high school. This is her first year away, and she's actually studying close to home, not that it helps, and that we could get into her or that she could come out freely to us. She's in Israel. And our boys went to America.
mhm.
Wow. So your children growing up, or now, are you like the only ones who are walking around very visibly Jewish? Beard, shaitel, however it is, and your kids, walk around. or there are others who
Are there other from religious people there?
Shem Shabbos are religious people who are walking around with you know, open.
So in Turkey, we try, when we first came here 20 years ago, we did not, there was a law at that time that prohibited wearing religious garb in public. So we got used to, when we walk out of the house, put on a baseball cap, and that's how we walk around. And we still do the same way. I don't know if this law is still in effect or not, but that's how we walk around here. Of course, everybody in the street knows that we are Jewish. Anybody, if you wander around here Friday nights, everybody will point out to the rabbi's house. Everybody, you know, everybody in the street knows where we live.
But I think we should preface your question by answering first a different question, which you asked about anti-Semitism. And then you can understand how we're answering this question. I could say, I don't believe we ever in our almost 20 years here encountered overt anti-Semitism. Does it exist? I'm sure it does, but I'm sure, you know, the same way it exists in every country, every place, that in every country, in every place, there's certain areas I would never venture into. The same thing holds true here, but in the proper cities here, in the proper areas, I could thank God say, we've never encountered anything that would concern or trouble us. So with that said, when my husband says that, you know, people, you know, they see foreigners roaming around Friday night, or people that look like they're not sure where they're going, we're not very worried when they say, oh, they all know him as Mendy. There's Mendy's house.
Right.
So we have never encountered, as Chaya said, never encountered any anti-Semitism, but there was in the 2003, there were double bombing here of the synagogues. 2 synagogues were bombed on Shabbat morning, both at the exact same time. This was a terrorist attack that was carried out by people from outside. Of course, it's something we remember every year. It happened on the 20th of Cheshvan, on Shabbos morning. 2 synagogues were bombed at the same time. But on a day-to-day basis, we don't feel any such anti-Semitism or anything like that. Never happened that you walk on the street and somebody would say something. That's never happened. We never encountered anything like that. Or graffitis, or there's nothing.
We've seen signs from time to time, anti-Israel signs from time to time, but nothing more than you would see going on anywhere else, I would say.
You were there already when the 2 synagogues were bombed. Is that correct?
We were.
Yeah.
It was actually just after we came.
Wow.
A year after we came or so.
Wow. So that must have been a little bit of a shock.
Must have been a bit traumatizing.
But you're still there.
It was traumatizing. My son, our son was at the time 2.5 years old, I think, our oldest son, and one of the bombs was right here at the synagogue next to our house, about 15-minute walk. Friday night, I was there with him, and Shabbat morning, I was supposed to go to that synagogue. Somehow we had a guest here, sat here Friday night, and we both decided with the guest that we'll go the next morning to the Ashkenazi synagogue, which is about an hour walk from our home.
Wow.
And that's how I wasn't personally at that synagogue, even though every Shabbat, that's the synagogue where I go to every Shabbat mornings or whatever.
Wow, that is incredible. So going back to some of the things you're saying, Jewish life there. So is there kosher restaurants or butcher shops and like marked kosher, or everything is very, if there is, discreet and like if you're in the Jewish community you may know, and otherwise no one would ever know.
In the supermarket.
Right. So there is I think the city has 7 kosher butchers. Spread, Istanbul is a very large city, has close to 20 million inhabitants, so lots of people, and very, very big city, and Jews are spread all over the city from all sides. So you don't really have like places where concentrations of Jews,
No
people
Code St.
living in-
Luke where everybody's in one place, or
So it's
Aventura.
it's all over the city. So there are about 7 kosher butchers. So but I mentioned before that the Jewish community here is a non-practicing Orthodox community. So while many people, or enough families that will want to have kosher meat at home, it doesn't mean that all these families would also buy kosher chicken or that they would have other kosher products.
Mhm.
So there are the selected amount of variety of kosher products that can be obtained, and whenever we go to the States or we go to Israel, we'll come back with big suitcases of food to help not only us, but all those people who join us for Shabbos meals or other guests and travelers that find themselves stuck. We have in the house, I think, 7 huge freezers in which
Wow.
we store meat and other products which we bring all over from the state. That being said, Turkey is sort of a major producer of kosher food. There are about 450 factories in Turkey which produce kosher food. I'm sure many of the food items that you consume in Canada or in the United States or elsewhere in Europe do have some ingredients which are produced in Turkey. Though ready to eat, so to speak, products are not very easily
Obtainable.
obtained.
Wow.
And I understand that you play a role in that, in the kosher
In
supervision.
kosher production and inspection, yes, it's part of what we do is that I'm responsible for the kosher inspection program of the Turkish Chief Rabbinate. Actually, in about 2 hours, I have to go to fly to the city of Ankara, where we are going to bottle the kosher wine that was produced at the end of the summer
Oh, wow.
for the local Jewish community.
Wow.
So yes, we have a production of kosher wine, and there are other things that are produced here. We also provide the Jewish community also provide meals for Turkish Airlines. Pre-COVID, there were about between 600 to 5,000 travelers a day that requested the kosher food. Turkish Airlines has brought in and out of Israel more than 1.2 million travelers, had more flights to Israel than to London.
The best
Wow.
prices.
Best prices. Turkish Airlines had good prices.
That's right. So I think Turkish Airlines transferred more passengers through Ben Gurion than El Al. It was the #1 airline in Israel until COVID hit. So of course that came down to 0. I think today there's 1 flight a day instead of this 15 or 16
Wow.
before.
So do Jews mostly live in Istanbul, or the Jews are spread out throughout the country, the Jewish community or the Jews?
So the Jewish community is mostly in Istanbul. There are there's the second largest Jewish community is in Izmir, has about between 800 to 1,200 Jews. Very small communities live in Bursa, about 20 to 30 people. In Antakya, which is the city of Antioch, where the story of Hanukkah came from, founded by Antiochus. Also has a very small Jewish community of about 15 to 20 people. And then there are very, very small remnants of Jewish communities spread out all over Turkey. In Adana, in Mersin, in Ankara, very, very small Jewish communities, just very individuals. But mostly, as he said, mostly are in Istanbul.
So do you have anyone that works for you that goes to all the small communities?
So we have here with us also Rabbi Mendy and Miriam Poj. They live on the Asian side of Istanbul. Istanbul is the only city in the world which is situated on 2 continents. Half of it is in Europe, the other half is in Asia. So the shluchim to the Asian side, the Rabbi and Mrs. Poj, they are here already for about 10 or 12 years. They're on the other side of the city. The other Jewish communities, I mean, we've been in touch with them once a year, try to visit the small Jewish communities. This past year, because of COVID, me and our older son, Eli, traveled around some 6,500 kilometers by car
Wow.
and visited all these small Jewish communities and other Jewish, old synagogues and remains of Judaism, which is spread out all over, literally all over this very, very large country.
Wow, that's amazing.
Wow, that really is incredible. So how has life been there different pre-COVID to COVID? I understand at some point it was, I think, the most popular destination for Israeli tourists, Turkey at some point. I'm not sure when that stopped, but quite a few used to go to the beach cities. So how has the things changed between pre-COVID and COVID for
like for you as shluchim? Like, how was your Chabad house, your house pre-COVID to now?
I think also we're all in the same boat as them. First of all, us being a popular destination, the most popular for destination for Israelis, that stopped a while ago when the whole flotilla situation took place.
Mhm.
The Mavi Marmara, if you remember.
Sure.
Though many tourists still do come through here. So one of the primary ways in terms of tourists that have changed is that we haven't had people in our home in a year and a half almost, which is pretty unique because generally every Shabbos our table is full with both local Jews and tourists.
And we see a big table.
Yeah.
So and that's when the table's small. It opens up still. This is at its smallest. So number one is that there's nobody in the house, really nobody. I mean, I'm sure that's like the same situation by you. You bring people in the home now, or you don't.
No one can go
Right.
in homes.
Not only that, there's so many curfews in effect and in place that you
Exactly.
can't have people in your house because by the time Shabbos starts or whatever, you already have to be locked back up.
Yeah.
The Jewish community here also lost between 70, 80, and 80 people to Corona.
Oh, yeah.
So it's quite a large number of people, some people that we knew and that we were close with, that have unfortunately died in this pandemic. So yes, definitely life is very different when the local synagogue right next to our house would have on a regular Rosh Chodesh, the first day of the month would have about 100 people and 2 separate minyanim. This week on Rosh Chodesh, there are barely 10 or 12 people at the synagogue. So it definitely affected life in a very major way. And the question is, post-COVID, or how are we going to again repopulate the synagogue and bring people's interest back? Saying that, there is also I won't say an upside, but the fact that thanks to Zoom and to modern technology, people are able to sit at home just as they do in Montreal and learn and study and increase their knowledge. There are many online lessons and gatherings.
I'm going to propose that, we're definitely missing the in-person element, but I think most communities will probably say they had more learning going on, more engagements in that way going on that they had pre-COVID. Everybody, how hard is it? What's your reason? There's no traffic. You can't say you're not attending, and there's no events happening outside either.
Exactly.
There's really nothing going on. Everybody tunes in to see what's, to learn something together.
Exactly.
So I just want to say, first of all, now that Chaya's here, for a little while on the Zoom already, Chaya and I go back a very long time. Chaya has a connection to Montreal. Chaya, do you want to speak about your connection to Montreal?
So I actually studied in the Montreal seminary over there, the higher education for girls, about 25 years ago. The dormitory that we had was on the same block as where Dina and Maishi lived. We used to eat by them fairly often. And I could confess now, we absolutely loved when they asked us to babysit because it came with a free ticket to raid their fridge and their cabinets, which we did wholeheartedly and really, really enjoy. At that time, I think you only had two kids, maybe
Kids.
two kids, I think. And when I think back now, I mean, as a mother,
No, I
you
had
were
my
fair-
third kid that year. I had my third kid at the beginning of the year.
like, when I think about it, you were fairly young to open up your house that week, literally to tens. I mean, the way you would do it was Friday night, you would have the boys, and Shabbos day, you would have the girls. To think at a young mother of 3 to host 10 guys and Friday nights and then 10 girls Shabbos day is incredible. So I have to tell you, when Dina asked me if I would come on at 2:30 in the morning over here, I said, oh my gosh, it's payback time now, huh? You're not giving me a choice.
Feel so bad that we
I
had
know, I
to.
feel so bad. I wish we could have done it earlier for you. But yeah, so we've kept up throughout the years, you know, and we see each other every year at the Kinnos HaShluchos
And now my husband's uncle is your husband's brother.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So everybody becomes interconnected
we all
when it's Chabad.
become family.
Yeah. And I mean,
So-
we've had some relatives marry your nieces and
Exactly,
nephews and
Exactly.
Small
Intermarriage,
world,
yeah.
small world.
yeah.
So talking about learning, this is what I wanted to get to. So Chaya studied in a very prestigious seminary, which gave her a lot of knowledge to be able to teach. She does classes online in the morning as well on Zoom. And I've listened to some of them. They're very, very good as well. So
actually bringing up the thing, I was curious just to ask, and maybe out of place. Being in sort of a Muslim society, do women generally in Turkey, but also you said Turkey is very European influenced. Are women out there, like you're able to be very out there, like we would be in America or Canada and, you know, doing things, or society's a little different there where you are in Turkey?
No. I mean, I'm sure in certain areas you'll have people on an extreme, but it's a regular society culture where women go out, interact.
Okay.
You can see their faces.
No, it's a modern society. Istanbul is quite a modern society with its good aspects and not such great aspects. Both, you know, you have both sides of the coin. It is quite a modern society in Istanbul. The area where we live is a very, very modern area. I'm sure there's some more conservative areas in Turkey, but Istanbul in general is very much like will be any other city. The Turkish constitution calls Turkey a secular country, a secular state. It's not really, doesn't really.
The way we understand secular.
Right. It doesn't actually
Not the way we
portray
understand
the reality on the ground. Even from a state perspective, I believe the biggest employer in Turkey is the Office of Religious Affairs, which pays the salaries of all the imams and muftis of, you know, and Istanbul is also the city that has the most mosques in the world, more mosques in Istanbul than any other city in the world. Nevertheless, from a legal perspective, it's a secular, and you know, it's free. Everybody's free to practice their religion, or to buy alcohol in the streets, or to cover their heads or not cover their heads.
Alcohol shops have to have their signs covered, and they can't freely advertise alcohol. You know?
Like here, cigarettes.
So it actually became interesting, you know, the same way you identify different franchises by the colors that they use, that's what alcohol stores ended up doing. You could identify, they all ended up using similar colors, and depending on what the color, you know what brands beer they sell or wine or whatever it is.
Right. If you would see on the street when you go on the street and you see a convenience store that has their doors colored green, you know that they usually would sell Carlsberg beer. And if it is blue, you know that they have FS Pilsen
Which is
beer,
a
a local brand. That became, it's a sort of a, you know, it's a sort of it's an advertising way. Things of, you know, if you see the blue truck, you know, this is the FS Pilsen truck. And if you see the green truck, you see, you know, it's like similar to when you see a red truck in Montreal, you know, it's a Coca-Cola delivery day. Um, so yes, but never, you know, you could buy beer in every corner, and it's not restricted. Unfortunately, you could also buy cigarettes everywhere. Many people still smoke, though it's
It
becoming
became
much less than before.
yeah.
So I'm sure the people would like to hear. So you're in Turkey for about 20 years. What do you find your impact was within the community? You know, there was an infrastructure, there's a lot happening, but how do you feel your impact on the community has been throughout the years, or your main impact that's on the community for its benefit?
It's a question that, of course, you know, in every business you know, you have a spreadsheet and you try to work out when I got in, how much was it, and after a year you try to see what did I do after a year. But working in a Jewish community is not the same way. It's not a business. It's very, very different. And working with an existing Jewish community is also very, very different.
In a very strange way, we see success in the more people that get out of here. Because when people leave here, it's because they're the people that we're in touch with. It's because they're looking to afford their families a more Jewish lifestyle, which they can't obtain over here, whether it means, like you asked before about kosher restaurants, kosher food, and down to friends. You know, it's hard when your kids have friends that none of them do what your kid's doing, and peer pressure sets in. So in a very strange way, when it's difficult for us that families are moving, it's symbolic of the fact that we actually made a dent in somebody's life.
But still, it's I many times I compare the life in or a Chabad shliach work in an existing Jewish community to that of constructing the difference between constructing a new building and strengthening a historic one. When a Chabad rabbi moves to a community that did not have a synagogue before, did not have an organized Jewish community, and he has to organize it and establish it, you could build a shul and organize a community in a way that you see fit.
Right.
But when you are hired as a rabbi to an existing Jewish community, it is like renovating or strengthening the foundations of a historic building. You have to make sure that the paint
That you preserve it.
that you preserve it. You have to make sure you can't even move walls inside the building. It's not only that you have to keep the outside, the facade has to be identical to the way you found it, or you just have to strengthen the building so it shouldn't crumble. You have to make sure that it stands on the foundations are old, but they have to be strengthened. The building might not really fit the way you like it, but it is an historic building, and there are certain rules that you have to respect and make sure that it remains the same, gives the same impression, and gives the same environment that it did all these years. And then after a year, you look back and says, well, it's the same building that they had here before. Yes, but you strengthen it, you made sure less bricks are falling off, and try to make it still relevant and attractive to people to join. So it is a difficult question of also for us personally, I must
I
say.
was actually wanted to add to that because, you know, what you said, like, you know, Chabad, usually a young Chabad couple moves out to a country or a city anywhere in the world. You open up a shul, even where shuls exist. I mean, if somebody on your block decided to open up another shul in their home on Friday night, you might not like it, but that's just too bad. You could, you know, it's a free world, everyone can do what they want. You cannot do that here. By law, you cannot open up synagogues on your own or religious institutions. So there's no such thing of us having a Chabad building over here, having our own shul, having our own school, our own institution, so to speak, which is a bit tricky as well. You know, you know that you know where your limits are,
Right, you know, you're
and there's
limited.
certain places you will not, you know, you cannot go.
But I think it's beautiful that you're able to work within the community and raise the community up many levels. I always hear so much. You do a lot with the youth, and I'm sure it's across the community. You're learning with the people of all ages and levels. They're connecting to you, but that's a very special thing of raising up the whole community. You're working within the community. Actually, how many rabbis are there? You said there are 16 or 20 shuls, but how many rabbis are there actually in Istanbul? You said there's a chief rabbinate. How many rabbis are there?
There are 5 or 6 rabbis that live here and work within the Jewish community. You know, I could give just another example of working within the Jewish community. When we first came, there was a local mikvah, and now there are 4 mikvahs. They're all part of the Jewish community, and it's spread around the city because we saw the need, of building new mikvahs, and obviously there was more demand for that. So you know, I had to encourage or push or try to influence the Jewish community to take the initiative or to make sure that it is done. So yes, there are of course many advancements of Judaism, but the most important thing is every individual that we try to engage with and to do another mitzvah and to learn a little bit more and to be more involved with Jewish life, send his kids to a Jewish school, which is a big step, of course, even if the school is not a very religious school, so to speak. Nevertheless, sending a kid to a school that doesn't operate on Shabbat and gives kosher food is a very, very important step. Before COVID, we also had a daily minyan in the Jewish school. Had anywhere between 20 to 50 kids come every morning to pray with the minyan. It's
Even here they don't
an
have
important step, especially at the Jewish school, which is we like to call it the school of Jews because it's not
The most Jewish thing about it is the student body.
right.
Wow.
How large is the school? How many students in the school?
Big.
It's about 550 or 600 kids.
Wow.
Even that, and it's not even like you could say that most Jews go to the Jewish school. A lot of them go to other private local schools.
Right, but we also we did pre-COVID many holiday events. You know, Purim was our biggest biggest event in terms of crowds. We have anywhere between 600 to 2,000 people who come to our Purim events. We also had large Hanukkah events, and of course, all other holidays, all other Jewish special dates. We always try to make an event. Unfortunately, it hasn't happened for the past. Our last event was last year at the Purim time.
Last year, Purim. Wow.
Most of us, that was our last
also,
event.
that was our last event.
I see from your Facebook, you've got stuff going on like food nights where people come pick up food and.
So we're trying to be, we're busy. I mean, I think we're busier now than we were pre-COVID in a certain way. We did actually,
but it's a different busy.
Huh?
Not in person.
It's so what we did before Pesach. When my son-in-law is a talented chef by as a hobby, and we did like a restaurant night where people ordered food and they picked it up. But we also do every couple of weeks like Shabbos to go, like we give people meals, like a little challah and some grape juice, like a kiddush in a bag type of thing. So loaves of love, we call it. So we give it to the people in the community.
Right. So we did the same, and on Purim we sent out how many? 480 mishloach manot packages to 480 families on Hanukkah and other times, and of course many people. Also, because of the COVID restrictions that has happened, that many people fly into Turkey and then they're denied the entry to Israel or to Europe and get stuck here. We had cases of people stuck here for weeks and months.
Wow.
People came here to have medical procedures, which medical tourism is a very important, very large here in Turkey. People from Israel came to do hair transplants, implants, and then couldn't travel, and they were locked here once Israel closed their borders within 24 hours. Their people were just blocked here for weeks and months, and we provided them with meals and Shabbos amenities for weeks at a time. Yes, in a way that we're being much more busy also, as you mentioned, during COVID, but it's a total different type of work. There's nothing prepared us for that.
I think the way it's going to have to work after COVID, the world's going to go into the hybrid version. We're going to have to make a certain type of synthesis between the two realities that we got used to.
Hopefully. I want to open up for questions in a minute if anyone has questions, but I want to ask you two things quickly, at least. So Turkey has a history. I always think of Turkey, even going back to Rabbeinu Gershom Meir HaGoyle, 1,100 years ago, that it was a big community, and other times. Is there any archaeology going on in Turkey? Has anyone identified graves or other places, buildings, have found even objects? Is there something like that going on in Turkey at all, or really it's...
I'll let my husband answer that question because there's a plethora of stuff on that. There was a tremendous amount. One thing I'll tell you that I found astonishing, we try Pesach. What we do is all our kids are home, thank God, Pesach time. So we usually go on a few-day family trip within Turkey. And one year we actually did more of like a historical type of trip. And what we couldn't get over, what was mind-boggling to us, is there's these relics that aren't being safeguarded. Like if I wanted to take a picture jumping on and off the relic, I could jump on and off the relic. And I don't know, it's like my husband would laugh and say, if Israel had just one of these rocks, they'd have, gates around it and plexiglass around it to make sure no one touches. Over here, it's in such abundance. And I don't know if that's why they don't care or they don't appreciate maybe because there's so much of it. Like, when you have so much of something, you don't realize perhaps the value of what lies within.
Yeah.
But yes, there's a lot of history. Turkey is probably the cradle of human society. That's where so to speak, society, civilization has come here. As Avram came here, I mentioned before, the tribes.
We have Noah's Ark in
Noah's
Turkey.
Ark was in Turkey. Noah lived in Turkey. Nimrod was in Turkey. We have a mountain called Mount Nimrod.
I always say one day we're going to find out that the Garden of Eden is somewhere in Turkey, and we didn't even know it all these years.
Let us know, find that.
But so definitely there's a lot. I think there are about 280 archaeological digs that operate every summer in Turkey. That we definitely know quite a few Jewish archaeologists that come here and do their digs here. There are ancient synagogues. There's a 2,000-year-old synagogue in the city of Sardis. There are remnants of synagogues in Priene, in many other places in Turkey. Almost every city in Turkey has an archaeological museum, and most of them also have Jewish artifacts, remnants of Jewish communities that have existed here throughout 2,700 years of Jewish history in Turkey. There's a lot of Jewish, the Jewish communities of Turkey are mentioned, I think, 20 or 30 times in the Talmud. Some of the Jewish communities in Turkey, and that's something which I mentioned very often, my wife heard it from me already a million times. Many of the Jewish practices that we do today in every Jewish home originate from the Jewish communities in Turkey. Just take, for example, the lighting of Shabbos candles. Of course, the institution of Shabbos candles started in Eretz Israel, but after the destruction of the temple, the rabbis gathered in the city of Yavne and were discussing how to light Shabbat candles. The Talmud in Tractate of Shabbat says that one of the elderly rabbis, Rabbi Tarfon, who was a Kohen at the temple, stood up and said that Shabbat candles can only be lit using olive oil because this is the way it was done in Jerusalem. But when Jews lived in Jerusalem, when temple times, it wasn't the same as after the destruction, when Jewish diaspora has grown. And another rabbi, Rabbi Yochanan ben Nuri, says the Talmud, Amad al Raglav, stood on his feet and he said, Ma yasu anshe Alexandria, the Jews of Alexandria, what would they do? They don't have olive oil. What would the Jews of Babylonia do? They only have walnut oil. What will the Jews of here? What Jews there? And then one of the places which Talmud mentions, it says, what will the Jews of Cappadocia, Udkia, what will they do that they only have petroleum?
Wow.
And in fact, the city of Cappadocia, which is here in Turkey, about 8-hour drive from where we are, is the first place in the world where humans have used petroleum. And that is how the halacha remained, that the Mishnah says that you may light Shabbat candles, madlikim bekol hashmanim, you may light with all types of oil, beitran ubeneft. You could also light Shabbos candles with neft, which petroleum. Today, Shabbos candles are all made from paraffin, which is a byproduct of petroleum. It's because of the Jews of Cappadocia, which used petroleum for Shabbos candles.
Wow.
Otherwise, would have been a good investment to sell olive oil to Jews.
Wow.
But so yes, definitely, the Jewish history of the Jewish community in Turkey is very well documented, very old, very ancient. So
Incredible.
a lot of history, a lot of things here.
Have the Jews ever made a museum, or one of the synagogues is like a museum? Have the Jews ever put together artifacts or things gathered, or just never happened? So
you know how it is. Jews usually live the now and tomorrow rather than the past. Though about 20 years ago, the Jewish community here, in order to commemorate the 500 years since the expulsion of Spain, they have opened an exhibit or a museum called to commemorate that. It's mostly focused on the last 500 years of Jewish history here, though it has one section that has a screen of me speaking about the ancient Jewish communities which are mentioned in the Talmud, as well as the ancient Jewish communities of Sardis and other places which do have very, very rich Jewish history. It is, as I mentioned before, about 95% of the Jews are Sephardic Jews, but nevertheless, Turkey, Istanbul, is a combination of 5 or 6 different Jewish, Jewish groups or Jewish communities. There's the Syrian Jews, the Kurdish Jews, the Ashkenazi Jews, Italian Jews, different segments, but it's all one Jewish community.
Do the Kurdish Jews speak Aramaic, or that's forgotten?
Yes, they actually do. They speak a language which is called Najdidan. Actually, in Turkey, there's a city which I visited with my son. It's called Mardin, and that city they still speak Aramaic. Not only the Jews, but the local population speak Aramaic.
Wow.
Very, very similar to the Jewish Aramaic, which is in the Talmud. If bread is lachmo, and wine is yeino, and water is mayo.
I was once picked up by a taxi in Israel who was a Kurdish Jew. I had a whole conversation in Aramaic. Like, for him, it was natural. For me, I never used the Talmudic words, but it was incredible. It was. He said his grandparents, his parents all speak Aramaic.
So it is quite interesting how the font of the local Aramaic of Mardin is still very, very similar to Hebrew. It says developed a little bit differently, but you could definitely identify the letters, and they have the same 22 letters as in Hebrew are in the local Aramaic dialect. Or called Aleph, Bet, Gimel, Dalet. The names of the letters are exactly the same.
Wow. By the way, with so much influence, what do they eat their Shabbos? We eat shalin. Many people eat dafina, tibit. Like, what do they eat there? What's the Shabbos food in Turkey?
Shabbos food in Turkey is
do they have like a shalin type of food?
Fish.
No gefilte fish.
That we learned early on.
Yeah. But do they have like a hot dish that they use
a
that
cholent
like
type
its
of
own
thing?
unique?
Shabbos day, not really anymore. Shabbos day, the minyan here is usually so early. It's like 7 in the morning. People here usually eat dairy on Shabbat morning.
Wow.
And Friday night, I would say, is a traditional Friday night meal.
Wow, interesting. The last thing I wanted to ask was, if we open up, is this, that you're the president of the Alliance of Rabbis of Islamic States. Today, their number they already have. The latest one is Dubai now has an official Jewish community. Just maybe you want to say, if you want to say a few words about what type of work you're doing and your reach and beyond Turkey in places where there may be not even any infrastructure.
So yeah, this is a new adventure which we took upon ourselves this year, to try to bring together rabbis all over the Islamic world. There are rabbis in 14 Muslim countries, and there are actually Jewish communities in I believe 18 or 19 Muslim countries. There's Muslim countries in Asia, there are Muslim countries in Europe, and there are Muslim countries in Africa and in the Middle East. Different Jewish communities, different needs, but in all Muslim countries, the religion takes a very central role. So that is why we believe it is very important to engage with governments, engage with people from an alliance of rabbis which is stationed and based in an Islamic country, rather than through organizations which are American or European-based organizations. So as part of it, we have just before coming for Pesach, so we provided matzah for Jews in Libya, Jews in Afghanistan, Lebanon, Oman, Egypt, Saudi Arabia, many other countries that the Jews are. In Libya, there's I believe there's 1 or 2 Jews living in Libya, 1 or 2 Jews in Lebanon. And many other countries have small Jewish communities. The largest Jewish community in the Muslim world is actually in Azerbaijan. It has 30,000 Jews. Second largest is in Kazakhstan, has 20,000 Jews. And then there goes Turkey and Iran. In Turkey, there are 12,000 Jews, and Iran as well, about 12 to 15,000 Jews. Iran is surprisingly, it's a very active Jewish community. They have the local, though we provide them with many religious articles, tefillin or a hand-made matzah. The city of Tehran has 7 or 8 kosher restaurants.
Wow.
And they have kollel over there and yeshivot working over there.
Wow.
Like a real functioning Jewish community.
We have someone from Persia who still has family who lives in Iran, and we hear about it. That's
I mean,
really...
I have one of the rabbis in Tehran does kosher inspections for companies that need a kosher certificate in Iran. The certificate is issued by us, but I have a rabbi in Tehran who does the inspections. Who shows me with a camera. He goes around the factories. We haven't been in touch with the rabbis in Tehran on a daily basis. It's quite an interesting community.
Well, that is really incredible work. So if you're good, I want to see if anyone has maybe a question. If you have a question, just like sort of raise your hand, I'll unmute you. Someone has a question or a comment, this is your chance.
Or just let them unmute.
Does anyone, Are we good? Does anyone have anything they want to ask specific? Yes. Helen, unmute yourself.
You have to
unmute.
That's the famous word 2021. Unmute yourselves.
Yeah, Helen, it's your turn. Yeah, unmute.
I want to thank you. It's really fascinating. I'm curious about the mechitzas. What are they like in the synagogues? Like, are the synagogues, are all the synagogues, does every synagogue have a mechitza? And are the mechitzas, what are they like?
Very easy over here. We have the women upstairs, the men downstairs. Every asked before if there's any museums of Jewish history. In a certain sense, a lot of the synagogues themselves serve as a living museum.
Wow.
Wow.
So as I mentioned before, the Jewish community here is an Orthodox
A
Jewish community.
non-practicing Orthodox community. All the decisions that they make are in line with Orthodoxy, but the personal lives that people live are not necessarily.
Okay.
Beautiful. Thank you. Anyone else have a question or a comment they want to make? Raise your hand and we'll unmute you. Okay, I think you've told everyone everything. I want to say I've gotten a number of texts while we're on that they're so enamored that they say when COVID's over, we're coming to visit Turkey. So actually, someone visits Turkey. Is there a way of connecting? You have a website, or is there a way of
That they can
finding
connect
out
with you.
what's going on and information, or if you're hospitable enough, which I know you are, a Friday or Shabbos meal, is there how would that happen?
Somehow everybody finds us. I mean, even these weeks, it's very interesting. I see in my husband's emails, it's probably 10 emails a day in terms of people inquiring about different stuff. Where they find us, how they find us, I don't know, but everybody manages to find us.
So we did have, throughout the years, thousands of people that came through our house and ate here. I don't even remember one week to another who was here the week before. Sometimes people say, "Oh, I was in your house 3 years ago." I wouldn't have very, very difficult to remember everybody and their stories. So we definitely have very interesting Friday nights here with lots of tourists, though it didn't happen in 16 months. We were actually in the process of building a website with all the tourist information until COVID was about. We said we'll launch the website once Pesach comes. COVID came a month before that, and
because it was getting to the point where we couldn't manage it anymore. There was such a large influx of tourists. Why, I don't know, but suddenly the past year and a half, an unusually large amount were coming. We're like, you know what? Time for a website to manage tourists. And literally the week or so before we're supposed to launch, COVID hit.
One second. Everyone mute your phone, whoever else is in the... Yeah, sorry, yeah.
It's now, there's a question that came up on the chat. Somebody asked,
Yes.
Yeah.
how do you know how many Jews are in Arab countries and how do you send the matzah? So I believe there are 96,000 Jews in Muslim countries today. I mentioned before, Azerbaijan has 30,000 and the other communities as well. I've been in touch with the people on the ground for many, many years. So we have the numbers and not accurate exact numbers, but it is more or less, it's quite true. Most people in the Muslim world, I could say even in Europe, most Jews are registered with the Jewish community. It's very hard to find people who are Jewish and nobody knows where they came from, because these are not immigrant communities. If somebody moves to Montreal, if he doesn't bother writing or attending a synagogue or coming to a Jewish event, nobody would know that he's there. But Jews of Turkey or people in the Muslim world, or even in general in Europe, are mostly people who have been here for many generations. So we know who they are, we know where they come from, we know their family. And if we would go into the books of the Jewish community, we could also find out the Jewish history.
That's exactly it. I mean, somebody has a baby, you register the baby with the Jewish community. So everything's like, as kids, I'm sure you could identify with this. We had these little blue books of stories of our tzaddikim, and they had the stories of Constantinople and all these old communities. And there's always the stories of the registry that they had of where the Jews were listed. That still exists over here. It's still the books that people are listed in when they get married, that you register each child when they're born, community tax, if you will, that you have to give yearly to keep the community afloat as well. In that sense, the community is still the way it was hundreds of years ago as well.
So if you want to find out if somebody here is a Jewish history, you just go over to the community, though most of the information is already computerized, but you could go, follow the records and go back for many generations back, and you see if
Yeah,
Another question there.
fascinating. Yeah, someone's asking, just to clarify, what do you mean you're not allowed to open up a synagogue?
No, there are local synagogues that are already here, historic synagogues, but to open a new synagogue, it's a very lengthy process. So
On the verge of impossible.
Does
right,
the
it's
government
almost
support
impossible.
the Judaism, the Jewish institutions, or they're totally supported by the Jewish community alone?
The government pays for the electricity bills of all synagogues.
Oh, wow.
So that's a big thing. But besides that, security, management, salaries are all, fundraised.
I mean, you have to understand this Jewish school with the hundreds of students, the tuition, all the tuition together is not enough even just to supply the security for the school. It's
Wow.
before you talk about teacher salaries and everything else that goes into running a school.
Wow.
Security happens to be an enormous expense on the community.
Wow, I imagine.
I mean, when to open a synagogue, many times when I went to the synagogue this Tuesday for Rosh Chodesh in the morning, there were 12 people, unfortunately because of COVID, but I believe there were 8 guards at the synagogue. It's a very, very heavy toll. That is very, very difficult for the Jewish community, and yes, it does rely a lot on outside
Foundations, organizations, yeah.
Wow.
I have heard, and I met a few people in the past when I was in business a little, and this, that, like every community, you have all different situations. But in terms of business, Jews were able to be successful. And many Jews have been successful, are successful. There's really very little limits in terms of if someone who goes into business to be able to do well just because you're Jewish. They're able to have the same type of success as anyone else or as people even in the Western world.
There are quite successful Jewish businesses here in Turkey. Some people more successful, some less. I'll say like this, that until 30 years ago, the Jewish community, it was very hard to find, even today, it's very hard to find a Jew that only speaks Turkish. You will always be able to speak another language, French or English or Spanish. And that is why this was an advantage. It has always been used out by Jews here in this area. They've always been the translators, the middle people were always the first to find the opportunity to do business. The past 30, 40 years become more and more difficult, also because the local population has much better education now than they did before. And the cost of Jewish life, of to live in a neighborhood where there are more Jews and send your kids to a Jewish school is much more expensive than it's much more expensive to live a Jewish life than it is to live for an average Turkish citizen. So today it is much more difficult for Jews to do businesses, but at the same time, there's some Jews who are very, very much involved in have very, very big businesses here, and it's a community which is also very quite generous. It has been in existence for so many years. It still stands on its own 2 feet. Still does many things. I mean, all our fundraising for our own activities also mostly or 90% of it is done here in Turkey locally. So
the community here also supports, it's only have a Jewish old age home here.
right, there's the Jewish old age homes, the home.
And unfortunately, they have a fully functioning also Jewish assistance for those in need, where there's enough people that they need an organization where they have to send out weekly food packages to.
Poverty.
The food packages, hot food, to give us. So the Jewish community has a team of people that go around to people who have less needy and give out, and sometimes change their kitchen or paint do painting jobs and things like that. There's a home, an old age home, but there's also a section of it which is for people who are homeless and things like that.
Or mentally unwell.
Mentally, right? There's a Jewish hospital. There's quite a lot of Jewish
It's a
institutions.
good infrastructure.
It
It's
was
an old,
incredible.
it's an old established infrastructure.
Wow.
Incredible, incredible. I think this was for me, and I'm sure everyone who's
For us,
listening here,
yeah.
for us, very, very powerful, very informative, very interesting. Obviously, hearing both of you talk, we see that Turkey is very lucky to have you, and we had your little baby with us as well. Baruch Hashem. You have nachas from your kids. You have a lot of success,
Yeah.
a lot of blessings and good things.
Thank you
and,
so much for doing pulling
and-
a part of a nighter.
Yeah, very
We
much
really
appreciated
appreciate
by all
it.
of us.
And on behalf of our entire community.
This is my way of telling you that I appreciated what you did for me 20 some years ago.
Thank you so much. And on
And
behalf.
Hatzlacha on everything you do as well, and much success on Nachas.
Someone
Thank
just
you.
asked a question. Just want to ask quickly.
On Facebook.
Does a synagogue near the Galata Bridge still
Galata Bridge.
function?
So the next to Galata Bridge, there are 4 functioning synagogues. There's the Neve Shalom, the Ashkenazi synagogue, the Italian synagogue, and the Old Age Home synagogue. And there are a couple of historic synagogues next to the Galata Bridge. These 4 are still open, of course, pre-COVID. But yes, they're definitely still functioning and open. The Galata area was the historic Jewish area of Turkey. Now nobody lives there besides the Jewish museum, and these synagogues. And the Old Age Home is also there in that area.
Wow.
Beautiful. Okay, so
So I
thanks
wanna
you so
thank
much again. I
everyone
don't know
for
if you
coming
have.
on.
I don't know if you have a last word you want to say, both you, either of you, but we really very appreciative and
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank
Good
you.
night.
It's a pleasure being here.
And
Thank you.
hopefully next week, 7:30, we'll be on again with actually another European country. Chabad of Venice will be joining us. The shluchim from Chabad of Venice, and they also have a lot of interesting things to share. We want to thank Rabbi Mendy and Chaya again for giving us their time. And thank you all very, very much. Look
Thank
forward-
you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
okay,
Well,
beautiful.
good night.
Be well, everyone.
Bye-bye.
Good night.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, be well, everyone. Have a good night.